Ottawa Business Journal's coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Michael Crockatt, the publisher of the Ottawa Business Journal. In order to keep local business leaders informed, OBJ is conducting a series of video panel discussions on a day-to-day basis. This week, we're changing directions a little bit. Last week, we focused on accounting, HR, and legal advice. This week, we'll look into the economic impact of COVID-19 on specific industries, and we'll speak with a number of local CEOs to gather their thoughts on this unprecedented health and economic crisis. Today, we look at an industry that is feeling the full impact of the pandemic, the hotel industry. And we couldn't possibly have a greater or better panel with us today. We have Michael Crockatt, the president of Ottawa Tourism. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having us today.
My pleasure. We have Steve Ball, the president of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association. Hello to you, Steve.
Hey, good morning, Michael. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks. And Colin Morrison, the general manager of Embassy Suites Hotel and Suites, I should say, and the chair of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association. Hello, Colin. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you, Michael. How are you?
Good. We're doing as best as we can, and I'm sure you guys have the same sentiment. So, Michael, let's start with a little bit of context here. Of course, you at Ottawa Tourism are kind of the large umbrella group for many aspects of the local tourism industry. So maybe you could start off with a two-part question. One, just give viewers a sense of how significant this industry is in our city, in our region, and also what are the early impact on the tourism industry at large?
Sure. Thanks very much, Michael. And it is one of those industries that sometimes flies under the radar a little bit in terms of the awareness of it from the average person in Ottawa. And it's huge. It's one of the largest private sector employers in our city. So if you think of 43,000 of our friends, neighbors, and relatives prior to COVID-19 were employed in the tourism sector. That's a huge number. There's not very many industries that can come close to that. When you think of $2.2 billion typically is spent by visitors in our community on an annual basis. Those are big numbers that are supporting those 43,000 jobs. And so it's huge. It's widespread. It's in every part of the city. Supports all those jobs and all that income. And it's money that's coming from outside the community that's supporting activity in our community. So it is very, very significant, and it is an important part of Ottawa's ongoing economy. And what we've seen, of course, in the last few weeks is just the industry being absolutely devastated, with demand going from 11 million visitors on an annual basis down to not being able to access the city at all as a visitor. So the demand has really shrunk. It's put a lot of businesses, so in particular some of the small businesses, in real jeopardy of being able to survive as businesses. And a lot of these are entrepreneurs and single operators where it's for them it's that business is their life as well. So yes, it's certainly having a big impact on big businesses like hotels and others as well. Those small businesses are very much in danger of going out of business. Our most recent analysis is showing that Ottawa, and of course this is still largely a guess because we don't know what the length of this crisis is going to be, but we believe that we stand to lose more than $1 billion in visitor spending in Ottawa just in 2020. Of course, we all agree public health comes first. That has to be the priority of our community, and we support that. But I think people need to understand, as you're helping them to understand the economic impact that this is having in terms of a loss of maybe $1 billion of spending.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate those comments. Steve, I want to turn to you next. Michael gave us that big picture on what was happening in the tourism sector in general. Let's dig down a little bit to the more specifically to the hotel industry. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Michael said, the industry has just been decimated. not only in Ottawa, but coast to coast. The Hotel Association of Canada estimates somewhere between 80 and 90% of hotels in this country will close before this crisis is over. So locally, we employ about 6,000 people in the industry. I would suggest that at least half of those people have been laid off to date. You're seeing hotel closures, announcements every day of various closures around town. And those that haven't closed are operating at a reduced capacity right now. So the industry, as Michael suggested, is challenged with staying afloat with no guests. Without guests, there's really not a functioning operation that can continue to thrive.
Okay. Colin, I want to turn to you and speak specifically to your specific hotel. I appreciate that you're also the chair of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association, but let's focus on your specific property, which is just a stone's throw from City Hall. In fact, it's an older property. It's undergone some great renovations in recent years. So what is happening specifically, Colin, when it comes to the Embassy Suites?
Well, we have been through hell and back. Putting in perspective of your RRSPs, if you saw 90% value of your RRSPs disappear, you have the ability to sell. We don't have that ability. So our business has declined by 90% to 95%. And we basically have to hang on and make sure that the people that we do have in the hotel are well serviced. The challenge is that to do that, and to stay afloat, we've had to lay off 80% of our salary or our staff. The salaried managers have all taken a hit in their income as well. And we are all here. I'm here in the hotel today in an empty restaurant because we have to service our customers. So we are part of the front line dealing with people who need a place to stay.
And do you anticipate, just to dig into that a little bit, Colin, so I clearly heard you say that you're down 90%, if not more, that the majority of your workforce has been laid off. Do you anticipate you'll stay open to continue to serve people that might actually still need somewhere to stay on a temporary basis?
Absolutely. The intent is to stay open. We do not have any plans to close at this time. But I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell what will happen tomorrow, let alone 2 weeks or 2 months from now. So while we have full intent on staying open and taking care of the guests that we have in the hotel, if those guests disappear and we don't have anyone to take care of, then we may have to look at other options.
Yeah, that's only sensible. Michael, let's come back to you for a second. So we all agree that this is a devastating impact on the tourism sector and specifically hotels, as we're hearing from Colin. And I don't want to skip over the health challenges, the medical crisis that our city might still face. But if we look a little bit down the road, what can be done to get this industry back on its feet eventually?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. There's a few things. I mean, I think on the urgent side of things, I think it is still important for government to be listening to what these businesses and business groups are saying in terms of what they need and how quickly they need some of that assistance. I think that's crucial for government to hear that message. For residents, we can all be part of the relief effort right now. We can all be part of helping local businesses through some great initiatives like buying gift cards for future use to help with the company's cash flow, for example. So there are some things that every Ottawa resident can do. Even ordering food for delivery or pickup, that helps a small business that's really impacted by what's going on. And when you talk about recovery, I mean, we are going to get through this as an industry and as a destination. We're very resilient. We will get through this, and there will be a recovery. And I can tell you, I can promise you, Ottawa Tourism will be at the front end of that recovery in terms of encouraging people and attracting people to come to visit our city. But again, everybody has a role to play in that. If you're a business person in Ottawa, bring your company's business meeting to Ottawa. Bring your industry association's convention to Ottawa. Help us rebuild that demand and that economic impact here. Invite your family to visit you in Ottawa. All those things are things that people can do that have zero cost to help the economic recovery here in Ottawa. So we've all got a role to play.
And Steve, we have heard stories of, for example, restaurants pivoting and doing more takeout. We have heard of some of these great ideas of buying gift cards. It seems to me, on the face of it, the solution or how we can help hotels, at least now, is very limited. It still might be an opportunity, Steve, to do something down the line. Can you speak to that a little bit? So if we look at a few weeks down the line, or maybe perhaps a few months down the line, what could we be doing for the hotel industry, either at a government level or a personal level?
So there's three things we're lobbying the government fairly aggressively on. We need some instant liquidity to keep cash flow in the pipeline. We need to address the employee relationships and ensure that when the crisis is over, we've got an employee base that we can actually draw upon and get them back to work. And we also need some investment in marketing strategies, as you're suggesting, so that we can hit the ground running when things do recover. But ultimately, there are some things we can do right away. And so I was particularly impressed with the Quebec government's announcement on Friday that one of their strategies is to actually look at using hotels to move hospital patients that are non-critical and non-COVID related into a hotel environment temporarily to free up space in hospitals to accommodate the expected flow of COVID-related patients coming. To me, this is brilliant. This kills two birds with one stone. If I'm a hospital patient, there's nothing more than I would rather do than get the hell out of that hospital. So I think this might be right in the sweet spot of a positive item that governments can help us with that solves two real problems that could be ahead of us in a very short period of time.
It's such an interesting idea. You're right, Steve, to use those hotels for different purposes, specifically for people in kind of non-emergency situations. And Colin, I think we're going to wrap up here in a minute, and I want to give you the last word. As a hotel GM at a independent private sector hotel, I guess they're all private sector now that I think about it. What is on your mind? If you're even able to think a few months down the road, what are you thinking about in terms of repairing your business?
In the short term, we're asking guests to book future dates as opposed to looking for a refund for stays that they currently have on the books with us. That'll help us out. At least it gives us something to look forward to versus severing that relationship in the short term. We're fortunate in our particular property, being an all-suite property, that we have the ability to help people out during this crisis. If they need a place to stay, if they're stuck in Ottawa for any reason, we've got a few more of the creature comforts than a regular hotel does, a full kitchen, etc. So we're hoping that will help us out a little bit. And for those beyond the crisis, come and visit your own country. Spend money in Canada. Come visit the nation's capital. It's a great place to be. We've got a ton of museums, lots of things to see, and better to spend the money in Canada, keep it in the country, than to go elsewhere.
Thanks. That's great advice, Colin. And we appreciate everyone's time today, of course. We're going to wrap up now. I just want to thank once again Michael Crockatt, the president of Ottawa Tourism, Steve Ball, the president of the Ottawa-Gatineau Hotel Association, and that was Colin Morrison, lastly, the general manager of Embassy Hotel and Suites. I've visited your property, Colin. It's beautifully renovated. As you said, some of the suites are fantastic in terms of a place to stay with kind of those full amenities. So thank you very much to all of you for being part of this video panel discussion. And please stay tuned to obj.ca for continuing coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us.